Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss the calls to have the Standards Commissioner investigate Dominic Raab, which could, in theory, result in him being recalled from Parliament, but also how they may be stretching a point a bit too much here. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. Right, so I seem to be doing a special on pieces about dangerously out of touch MPs at the moment, don't I? Dominic Raab again for this one. So not necessarily all over for the former Deputy Prime Minister, despite being compelled to resign for bullying staff. I talked recently about the potential for him to be charged with contempt by the High Court on another matter. We'll have to see how that one goes. There's a lot of people going, nothing will come of it. You may be right, but we will see. We will see. It is ongoing. But in light of the report into Raab's behaviour in government, there are now calls for the Standards Commissioner to investigate. They're investigating his boss for potential dodgy financial dealings, so why not his former deputy for bullying? Naturally, much of the right wing are still raging about Raab having had to resign in the first place. They have argued that Tolley's investigation set the bar too low for the definition of bullying. Now, there are a couple of things which I think these people seem to be particularly forgetting, rather conveniently. First, in his report, Tolley actually described how there was no legal definition of bullying, but that he had leaned on a description used by the Supreme Court in a relevant case. So the bar chosen has been informed by the highest constitutional court in the land. It wasn't just made up on the spot. Secondly, Tolley also made it clear that he is not attempting to make a judgment on whether or not the ministerial code has been broken. He leaves that to the Prime Minister, and that's important. The report makes it clear multiple times it is establishing the facts based on the evidence gathered. There are times when Tolley accepts that he doesn't believe Raab did wrong. There are times when he says that the evidence isn't strong enough. And there are times when he's clear that Raab has fallen below certain standards. But, and he does keep stressing this, he doesn't tie those standards to the ministerial code upon which Sunak was making his decision. The decision to resign was nominally that of Dominic Raab, but the pressure for him to resign came not from Tolley, not from the civil servants, but from Rishi Sunak himself. If Sunak had decided that Raab had not breached the code, as Boris Johnson, for political reasons, decided to do with Priti Patel a few years ago, then he would still be in position now. It would be political suicide for him and his party, which is why he's gone. That's why Priti Patel stayed and Dominic Raab's gone, because the political calculations have now changed, but it was ultimately Sunak's decision. Complaining about the officials who made the allegations is the most ridiculous projection when they had no hand in the decision made. As an aside, the right-wing commentators waxing lyrical about how civil servants are all left-wing Ramona activists, or at least just soft, may have missed that Raab has got a bit of a history, stretching back to before his parliamentary career. Payments were made, NDA signed, as a result of Raab bullying a young woman when he worked in David Davis's office before he became an MP. So when this same David Davis MP, who this weekend has claimed that he does not recognise the description of Raab as a bully, it's just possible he might be telling some fibs, because David Davis employed him when another employee of his had to be paid off. Otherwise, Dominic Raab would have been taken to court, or tribunal at least, for sexual harassment. I mean, who arranged, for example, for the £20,000 money for the victim, the hush money? But it is the here and now which presents Raab with another potential hurdle. So he's faced his sanction for his behaviour as a minister. He has resigned. But he's also, or has he also breached the standards of expected of all MPs, in which case maybe there should be an investigation for that. In particular, I've seen reports suggesting that he may fall foul of the following. Now, quote, MPs must treat their staff and all those visiting or working for or with Parliament with dignity. Or dignity, courtesy and respect, I should say, sorry. Now, this might not be all that clear-cut. You say to yourself, well, he clearly hasn't treated his staff with dignity, courtesy and respect, has he? But the members of staff in this case were Whitehall staff, not people working for or with Parliament as such. So it would be the treat their staff which would have to carry the burden if there were to be an inquiry. And it might be considered by the Standards Commissioner that the allegations were entirely about his conduct as a minister outside of his parliamentary duties. When it says their staff, I think that means their personal parliamentary staff. Because I'll be honest, I don't think I'd have an objection to taking the view that actually this has got nothing to do with the code of conduct for MPs. This is entirely about the ministerial code, which is why there is a separate code. As much as I think the sooner voters get the chance to boot him out, the better. You know, mind you, there is also the catch-all, never undertake any action which would cause significant damage to the reputation and integrity of the House of Commons. Now, you may say, well, he's brought the House into disrepute. Well, has he? Again, could it be considered that his actions have reflected poorly on the reputation of the House of Commons? Is his behaviour a poor reflection on the House of Commons? I really don't like Raab's attitude, his rhetoric, the way he's screwed the public over in every post he's ever held. But I just don't see how his actions have cast a poor reflection on Parliament. On the government, yes. On Rishi Sunak personally, yes. But not the House of Commons. It was entirely in his role as a member of the government and with government staff in government buildings. He also resigned, or was made to resign, as soon as the report was published. You know, actually a full day after the report was published, I suppose, and half a year after the allegations arose. Sunak may regret that softy jibe against Starmer when people compare the speed with which each has dealt with a wayward colleague this past week. But it's hard to imagine many, because it says significant damage, so it'd have to be a lot of members of the public. It's hard to imagine a lot of members of the public suddenly having a lower opinion of the House of Commons, separate to the government, as a result of Raab's behaviour here. Be different if we were bullying people in the House of Commons, whether staff, other MPs or visitors, because that is expressly covered. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to pretend to be able to interpret the code of conduct for MPs completely accurately, but I do think it's very probable that Raab is going to remain an MP until the general election. Unless, of course, that contempt charge materialises. Then he'll find himself not only not an MP, but maybe doing a spot of porridge as well. Not that I think we need fear seeing him return to Parliament after the election. I think we've basically got a year and that's it. I mean, I don't even know if I don't think he's necessarily even been selected as his constituency candidate yet. And if he is, or he has been and I've missed it, I think the chances of retaining the seat are slim to nil. He might be better off not being selected and try and run off to a much safer seat somewhere else. Although he'll have some competition. Plenty of Tory MPs trying to flee to safer ground at the moment, with Boris Johnson strongly suspected of wanting a chicken run to where he's just paid millions of pounds in cash for a mansion, which is nowhere near his constituency, but which is very close to a very safe Tory constituency where the current MP has announced that he won't be standing at the next election. And as coincidence will have it, it's Boris Johnson's old seat from before he became Mayor of London. So Raab may have some competition if he wants to do that. Besides, we wouldn't want to deprive ourselves of the sight of Raab, would we? 3 o'clock in the morning, being told that he's just lost what was a safe Tory seat when he first stood, would we? But as far as the calls for Raab to face this standards investigation, I mean, his allies will claim that it's politically motivated. I mean, they're always politically motivated. But in this case, I think they will be absolutely right. I don't really see what the grounds are. If there are some grounds and he is found guilty, I think it's going to be relatively minor. And I really don't see it being a big 10-day suspension. So what's the point? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.